You've caught it, haven't you? That subtle shift in the air when you embrace someone else in front of them. The way their smile tightens just slightly. How their laughter sounds different, forced, maybe a little too loud. Or the silence that follows, the kind that feels heavier than it should. They say nothing about it, but you feel everything. You feel the tension coiling in the space between you, the way their energy changes, the way they suddenly need to check their phone or look somewhere else or create distance where there wasn't any before. And here's what's wild, you're not imagining it. This person, whether they've admitted it or not, whether they even understand it themselves, is experiencing something visceral when they see you give physical affection to others. It's not casual. It's not mild. It's jealousy, yes, but it's deeper than that. What's happening inside them when you hug a friend, embrace a family member, or even just touch someone's arm in conversation is revealing something they've been working hard to keep hidden. And what I'm about to walk you through is going to shift how you see this entire dynamic, because the possessiveness underneath this reaction. It goes further than you think. This isn't about a simple preference. This isn't them being slightly territorial in a cute, harmless way. What you're witnessing is a fundamental reveal of how deeply they feel about you, and how terrified they are of losing access to you. Their jealousy over your hugs, your casual affection toward others, is exposing a level of attachment they haven't spoken out loud. And depending on where this is going, this revelation is either going to bring incredible clarity to your connection or serve as a critical warning sign you need to pay attention to. For some of you watching, this person is someone you're romantically involved with, someone you're dating or in a relationship with. For others, this is someone who's been hovering in that ambiguous space, maybe a close friend who's never quite defined what they want, someone who's been orbiting your life with intensity but without commitment. And for some of you, this is someone from your past who's come back around, and their jealousy now is revealing just how much unfinished emotion they're still carrying. Whoever they are to you, their reaction to your physical closeness with others is a window. And you're about to look through it and see exactly what's been hiding on the other side. Because what shows up as jealousy over something as innocent as a hug is actually the surface manifestation of a much deeper experience they're having. Underneath that reaction is fear. Underneath that fear is longing. And underneath that longing is a level of feeling they don't know how to express or control. Before we go deeper, if this is already resonating and you feel seen, comment the word "seen" below. Let me know you're here, that this is speaking to your exact situation. And if these videos bring clarity to your journey, the super thanks button is one way to support this work and help me continue creating these deep dives into the connections that shape our lives. Your support means everything. Now, let's get into this. Because there are layers to what's happening here that you need to understand. This isn't just about jealousy. This is about what jealousy in this specific context reveals about their inner world, their attachment style, their fears, and yes, their hidden possessiveness. And that possessiveness? It's going to show you exactly where this connection stands and where it's headed. Stay with me, because what we're about to explore will give you the clarity you've been searching for. Let's start with what's actually happening in these moments. You need to see the pattern clearly before we can interpret what it means. You're at a gathering, maybe a party, maybe just hanging out with friends, and someone you care about approaches you with open arms. You hug them. It's natural, easy, the kind of embrace you've exchanged 100 times before. But this time, you're aware of eyes on you. This person who's been watching. And when you pull away from that hug, you glance over and catch their expression, or the carefully constructed absence of one. They're pretending not to care. But their body language is telling you everything. Maybe they've suddenly become very interested in their drink. Maybe they've turned to talk to someone else with an enthusiasm that feels performative. Maybe they've physically moved to a different part of the room. Or maybe, and this is the one that really gets under your skin, they do the opposite. They come closer, insert themselves into the conversation, touch your shoulder or your back, as if to reclaim territory they feel was temporarily lost. Or picture this, you're saying goodbye to a friend, someone you haven't seen in a while. The hug lingers just a second longer because there's genuine affection there, genuine connection. And in the car afterward, or later that night, this person brings it up. Not directly, of course. They're too clever for that. Instead, they make a comment, "You and that person seem really close." The tone is casual, but you can hear the question underneath it. The seeking. The need for reassurance that what you have with them is different, more, better. Or maybe they don't say anything at all, but their mood shifts. The warmth between you cools. They become quieter, more withdrawn. When you ask what's wrong, they say, "Nothing," but you both know it's something. And if you press, if you really push them to be honest, they might admit, reluctantly, almost embarrassed, that seeing you hug someone else bothered them. But even then, they downplay it. They make it seem smaller than it is. They laugh it off. "I don't know why I felt weird about it. It's stupid." But it's not stupid. And it's not small. What you're witnessing is their emotional system responding to a perceived threat. And I say, perceived, because here's the thing, the threat isn't real. You hugging your friend isn't actually endangering what you have with this person. But to them, in that moment, it feels like it is. Their nervous system is reacting as if your affection is a limited resource, and every bit you give to someone else is taken from what's available for them. This is scarcity thinking at its core. This is someone who doesn't feel secure in their place in your life, so every sign of your closeness with others feels like evidence they might lose you. Now, let's be clear about something important. There's a difference between healthy jealousy and unhealthy possessiveness. Healthy jealousy in a committed relationship might mean someone feels a twinge of discomfort if their partner is overly touchy with others, and they communicate about it openly. "Hey, I noticed I felt uncomfortable when you were hugging person for so long. Can we talk about boundaries?" That's emotional maturity. That's someone taking responsibility for their feelings while inviting dialogue, but what we're talking about here is different. This is jealousy that can't be spoken directly. This is jealousy that manifests as mood shifts, passive comments, withdrawal, or sudden territorial behavior. This is jealousy that they're hiding, from you, and maybe even from themselves. And that hiding? That's what makes it possessive. Because possessiveness isn't just about wanting someone, it's about feeling entitled to control their interactions with others while not being honest about that desire. For those of you in established relationships with this person, you're likely noticing this pattern escalating. What started as subtle has become more obvious. What they could once brush off now eats at them. And you might be wondering, where is this coming from? Did something change? Or has this always been there, just beneath the surface, waiting for the right conditions to emerge? For those of you who aren't officially together, this jealousy is even more telling. This person has no formal claim on you. You haven't made promises to each other. You're technically free to hug, touch, connect with whomever you want. But they're responding as if they do have a claim, as if there's already an invisible commitment in place that you're violating when you show affection to others. And that presumption, that unspoken expectation, is revealing something crucial about how they see you and what they believe they're entitled to from you. Don't go anywhere. We're about to go deeper into why this happens, what it reveals about their attachment wounds, and what the possessiveness underneath this jealousy is really trying to tell you. Type "I see it" if you're recognizing this pattern clearly now. The truth is, their jealousy over your hugs isn't about the hugs at all. It's about what those hugs represent to them. It's about their fear that they're not enough, that they don't matter most, that you might discover someone else who meets your needs better than they do. And that fear is so big, so consuming, that it shows up in the smallest moments, in a 3-second embrace that means nothing to you but everything to them. We're just getting started. The layers beneath this are profound, and what's waiting in those layers is going to change how you navigate this entire dynamic. Let's go underneath the behavior and examine what's actually driving it. Because when someone experiences jealousy over something as innocent and commonplace as you hugging other people, you're seeing the manifestation of deep-seated emotional patterns. This isn't random. This isn't about them being crazy or insecure in some vague, dismissive way. This is about specific wounds, specific fears, and specific attachment dynamics that are being activated. First, let's talk about attachment anxiety. For some people, their early experiences with love and connection taught them that closeness is unreliable. Maybe they had a parent who was inconsistent, present one day, distant the next. Maybe they experienced abandonment, literal or emotional. Maybe they learned that the people they loved most could disappear, could withdraw, could choose others over them. And those early lessons created a blueprint, a template for how they experience relationships now. When someone with anxious attachment sees you physically close with others, their nervous system interprets it through that old lens. To them, your hug with someone else is evidence, see? They don't need you. They have other people. You're not special. You're going to be replaced. It doesn't matter that logically, rationally, they know a hug with a friend or family member isn't a threat to what you share. The emotional part of their brain, the part that's been shaped by old wounds, is louder than logic. And so they respond. Sometimes with withdrawal, creating distance to protect themselves from the pain they're anticipating. Sometimes with clinginess, moving closer to you, touching you more, as if physical proximity can secure the emotional connection they're afraid of losing. Sometimes with testing, saying things designed to get reassurance from you, to hear you confirm that they matter, that they're different, that you're not going anywhere. But here's where it gets more complicated. For some of you, this person doesn't have anxious attachment. They have something else. They have a belief system that says love is ownership. That when someone cares about you, they should center their affection on you alone. That sharing your warmth, your touch, your energy with others is a form of betrayal, or at the very least, a form of disrespect. This belief doesn't usually come from a place of conscious malice. Often, it comes from cultural conditioning, from family models where possessiveness was normalized or even romanticized. He's so jealous because he loves you so much. She doesn't want you around other women because she knows what you mean to her. These narratives dress up control as care, and people internalize them. They come to believe that jealousy equals passion, that possessiveness equals commitment. So when this person sees you hug someone else and feels that surge of discomfort, they interpret it as proof of how much they care. They think, I feel this way because you matter so much to me. And in their mind, that justifies the feeling. It even makes the feeling noble. They're not being controlling, they're being devoted. They're not being possessive, they're being protective. But intention doesn't erase impact. And what you're experiencing is the impact of someone who believes, on some level, that your body and your affection are territories they should have governance over. Now, some of you are watching this and feeling a knot in your stomach because you're realizing this goes further than you wanted to admit. You've been making excuses for their behavior. They just love me a lot. They've been hurt before, so I understand why they're sensitive. It's kind of sweet that they care who I touch. But deep down, you feel the weight of it. You feel yourself editing your behavior to avoid triggering their jealousy. You feel yourself thinking twice before hugging a friend, or you make your embraces shorter, more formal, less warm, because you don't want to deal with the aftermath. You don't want the silent treatment, the passive-aggressive comments, the shift in energy that you'll have to manage. And that editing of yourself? That's the possessiveness working. That's them extending control over your behavior without ever explicitly demanding it. Because possessiveness doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just shapes the space around you, creating invisible boundaries you start to obey without even realizing you're obeying them. Let's talk about what this looks like in different contexts, because the possessiveness shows up differently depending on the nature of your relationship. If this is a romantic partner, the jealousy over hugs might extend into other areas. They might get uncomfortable when you talk about coworkers, especially if you mention someone's name repeatedly. They might scroll through your social media likes, checking who you're interacting with and how. They might make jokes about people in your life, jokes that sound playful but have an edge designed to undermine those relationships, to make you question whether those people really care about you the way this person does. If this is someone you're not officially with, someone you're casually seeing, or a friend who clearly wants more, the jealousy is even more revealing. Because they have no agreed-upon right to feel this way. And yet they do. They're acting like a partner without being one. They're responding with ownership over you without having earned or been given that place. And that presumption, that entitlement, is a red flag waving directly in front of you. Here's the truth that's going to land differently for each person watching: the possessiveness they're hiding will shock you not because it's so extreme, though for some of you, it is, but because it's so at odds with who they present themselves to be. Maybe this person has always seemed so confident, so self-assured. They carry themselves like someone who doesn't need anyone, like they're above pettiness and insecurity. And yet, when you hug someone else, that mask slips. You see the child underneath, the one who's terrified of being forgotten, the one who's convinced that love is a competition they might lose. Or maybe they've always been that chill one, the person who talks about trust and freedom and not being clingy. They've made comments before about how toxic jealousy is, how mature partners give each other space. But their actions tell a different story. The way they track your movements, the way they need to know where you are and who you're with, the way they subtly isolate you from people they perceive as threats, all of it contradicts the narrative they've sold you, and themselves, about who they are. For some of you, the shock is in the intensity. You didn't realize they felt this deeply. You thought you were casually dating, maybe exploring a connection, keeping things light. But their reaction to your affection toward others is revealing that in their mind, you're already theirs. They've already decided. They've already claimed you internally. And now they're upset that you haven't fallen into line with a commitment they never actually discussed with you. That's the shock. That's the revelation that's been building. This person has an entire relationship with you in their head, complete with boundaries, expectations, and rules, that you never agreed to. And their jealousy over your hugs is just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath is a possessiveness that says, "You should know what I need from you without me saying it. You should know that choosing to be close with me means being less close with others. You should know that my comfort matters more than your freedom." And if you're watching this feeling uncomfortable because you're recognizing controlling behavior you've been trying to excuse, I want you to hear this gently: you deserve someone who trusts you. You deserve someone whose love expands your life instead of shrinking it. You deserve someone who sees your capacity for affection, your warmth, your ability to connect, your generous heart, and celebrates it instead of trying to ration it. The possessiveness they're hiding might shock you, but it doesn't have to trap you. You're allowed to see it clearly and make decisions from that clarity. Now, let's talk about the other side of this, because not everyone watching this is in a toxic situation. For some of you, what's happening is actually a growth opportunity, for both of you. Maybe this person is genuinely working on their attachment wounds. Maybe they're in therapy, doing the inner work, learning to communicate about their triggers instead of letting them control their behavior. Maybe they have told you, honestly and vulnerably, "I notice I feel jealous when you hug other people, and I'm trying to understand where that comes from because I know it's not rational." That's a different situation entirely. That's someone taking responsibility. That's someone who's aware that their feelings are theirs to process, not yours to manage. And in that case, their jealousy, while still something to be mindful of, can be something you navigate together with compassion. You can reassure them without changing who you are. You can create safety in your connection while maintaining your authentic way of relating to the world. Because the difference between healthy and unhealthy possessiveness is awareness and responsibility. Healthy processing sounds like, "I felt uncomfortable when I saw you hug them. I know that's my issue to work through, and I'm bringing it up so you know what I'm experiencing, not to change your behavior." Unhealthy possessiveness sounds like, "Why do you have to hug everyone like that? It makes me wonder what you're getting from them that you're not getting from me. Maybe you should think about how it makes me feel before you're so affectionate with other people." Do you see the difference? One takes ownership. The other makes you responsible for managing their emotions. And here's what you need to understand about where this is headed: if this person continues down the path of hidden possessiveness, if they never address the root wound, never learn to self-regulate, never develop the security that allows them to trust you, it will get worse, not better. The jealousy over hugs will become jealousy over conversations, over time spent with others, over attention you give to your hobbies or your career or your family. The cage will get smaller and smaller until you can barely breathe inside it. But if they do the work, if they face their fear, if they heal their attachment wounds, if they learn that real love isn't about possession, then what you're seeing right now could be the turning point. The moment when they realized something was off and chose to do something about it. The question is, which direction are they moving? Toward growth or toward greater control? You already know the answer. Your body knows. Your gut knows. You've been feeling the difference between someone who's struggling but willing to work on themselves and someone who expects you to shrink so they can feel big enough. Trust what you know. If this is touching something deep, if you feel like you're finally seeing clearly, the super thanks button is there if you want to say thank you for this clarity. This work takes time and energy, and your support allows me to keep creating these deep explorations into the dynamics that shape our lives. But more than anything, I want you to walk away from this with the insight you need. Let's talk about how to respond to what you're seeing. Let's talk about what you do with this awareness. Comment the word clarity if you're ready for the application piece. So now you know. You've seen the jealousy. You've recognized the possessiveness underneath. You understand what's driving it. Now comes the part where you decide what you're going to do with this information. And this is where I need you to be really honest with yourself, because the path forward depends entirely on the specific situation you're in. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here. But there are principles you can apply that will help you navigate this with integrity and clarity. Principle 1, name what you're experiencing. You can't address what you won't acknowledge. If you've been downplaying this, minimizing it, telling yourself, it's not that bad, or everyone gets a little jealous sometimes, stop. Get precise about what's actually happening. Is this person making you feel guilty for normal human connection? Are you editing your behavior to avoid triggering them? Do you feel like you're walking on eggshells, carefully managing your interactions with others so they don't get upset? Name it. Out loud. In your journal. To a trusted friend. This person gets jealous when I hug other people, and it's affecting how I show up in my relationships. Saying it plainly, without softening it, without qualifying it, gives you power. It takes the vague discomfort you've been feeling and turns it into something you can actually work with. Principle 2, communicate directly if it's safe to do so. If you're in a relationship where direct conversation is possible and safe, emphasis on safe, then you need to talk about what you're noticing. Not in the heat of the moment when they're already triggered, but during a calm time when you're both grounded. You might say something like, I've noticed that you seem uncomfortable when I hug my friends. I want to understand what that brings up for you, and I also want to be clear about what I need, which is the freedom to show affection to people I care about without it creating tension between us. Can we talk about how we navigate this together? Notice the structure there, observation without accusation, curiosity about their experience, clarity about your needs, invitation to problem solve together. That's how you create space for productive dialogue instead of defensiveness. But, and this is critical, if you try to have this conversation and they respond with deflection, blame, or more attempts to control you, well, if you cared about my feelings you wouldn't hug people that way, then you have different information. Then you know this isn't someone who's willing to meet you in honest communication. And that tells you what you need to know about whether this dynamic can shift. Principle 3, maintain your boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. If you've determined that your way of connecting with people is healthy and appropriate, if you're not being overly intimate with others in ways that genuinely cross relationship boundaries, then you don't need to change your behavior to suit their insecurity. You can be compassionate without being complicit. This means you keep hugging your friends. You keep being warm, affectionate, present with the people in your life. You don't shrink yourself, don't make yourself smaller, don't ration your love to make someone else feel more secure. Because when you do that, you're teaching them that their jealousy is a tool that works. You're reinforcing the dynamic where their discomfort becomes your responsibility. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. They might get upset. They might withdraw or pout or make passive-aggressive comments. But you standing firm in who you are, in your right to move through the world authentically, is actually the most loving thing you can do. For yourself, obviously. But also for them, because it forces them to confront their pattern instead of being enabled in it. Principle 4, recognize the difference between patience and tolerance for mistreatment. Some of you are thinking, but shouldn't I be patient with them? Shouldn't I give them grace while they work through their issues? And yes, grace is beautiful. Patience is important. But there's a difference between supporting someone's growth and tolerating behavior that's harming you. Patience looks like, I see you're struggling with jealousy, and I believe you when you say you're working on it. I'm here to support that process, and I'm also clear about what I will and won't accept. Tolerance looks like, I know you get jealous, so I've stopped hugging my friends goodbye. I know it bothers you when I talk about my coworkers, so I just don't mention them anymore. I know you need constant reassurance, so I spend all my time proving I'm not going anywhere even though I'm exhausted. One honors both people. The other sacrifices one person to protect the other. And you shouldn't be the one being sacrificed. Principle 5, trust your timeline. If you've decided this relationship isn't healthy, that the possessiveness is too much, that you need to step back or step away entirely, trust that timing. You don't owe anyone a slow fade if you're clear that it's over. You don't have to wait for them to get worse before you're justified in leaving. Recognizing a pattern that doesn't serve you and choosing to exit before it escalates is wisdom, not impatience. And if you've decided to stay, to give this more time, to see if they're genuinely willing to grow, that's okay too. As long as you're staying from a place of conscious choice, not from fear or guilt or obligation. As long as you're staying with your eyes open, not deceiving yourself about what you're seeing. Principle 6, don't make their journey yours. Their healing is not your project. Their attachment wounds are not your puzzle to solve. Their journey toward emotional security is not a path you can walk for them. You can support. You can encourage. You can hold space. But you cannot do the work they need to do. And if you find yourself trying to, if you're constantly researching attachment styles, buying them therapy workbooks, managing their triggers, explaining to them why their jealousy is disproportionate, you've crossed from partnership into caretaking. And caretaking dynamics breed resentment on both sides. Your job is to be clear about who you are and what you need. To show up with integrity. To love them well without losing yourself. That's it. That's the whole job. The rest is theirs. Principle 7, watch for escalation. Here's something you need to be vigilant about: possessive behavior rarely stays static. It either gets better through intentional work, or it gets worse through avoidance and enabling. If you're noticing that the jealousy is expanding, if they're moving from being bothered by hugs to being bothered by you spending time with friends at all, to checking your location, to questioning your loyalty, you're watching escalation. And escalation is dangerous. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to make you alert. Because too many people dismiss early warning signs as not that serious, and then find themselves months or years later in dynamics that have become genuinely unsafe. You don't have to wait until something traumatic happens to take the red flags seriously. The flags are there early for a reason. They're giving you information while you still have the clarity and agency to act on it. If someone's jealousy is morphing into control, please talk to someone you trust. Please consider whether you're safe. Please don't convince yourself that love requires you to stay in something that's diminishing you. For those of you who need to hear this, you are not responsible for someone else's emotional regulation. You are not obligated to stay with someone whose wounds are becoming your prison. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to choose yourself. And choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. Let's bring this home. Let's talk about what you're actually being invited into through all of this. If this section has given you tools you needed, drop the word "empowered" in the comments. So where does all of this leave you? You came to this video because you noticed something. A pattern. A reaction. A dynamic that didn't quite sit right. And now you have language for it. You have clarity. You can see the jealousy, the possessiveness underneath, the attachment wounds driving it. You can see what's yours to hold and what isn't. You can see the difference between someone struggling through growth and someone expecting you to compensate for their lack of it. And that clarity, that's your power. Because you can't make wise decisions from confusion. You can't set boundaries you can't see. You can't protect yourself from dynamics you've been trained to ignore. But now you're awake. Now you're aware. And awareness changes everything. For some of you, this awareness is confirming what you've been feeling for a while, that this relationship isn't healthy. That the possessiveness you've been experiencing is not love dressed up in intensity, but control dressed up in care. And if that's you, I want to speak directly to your heart. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to say, I see you struggling, and I have compassion for that, but I can't stay in something that requires me to make myself small. It's okay to choose freedom over a connection that's costing you too much. You don't need permission to leave. You don't need their approval. You don't need to wait until they do something bad enough to justify your exit. Your discomfort, your unease, your exhaustion, those are enough. Those are reason enough. Your peace matters. Your joy matters. Your right to move through the world without guilt or surveillance or constant reassurance seeking, that matters. And yes, leaving might hurt. They might accuse you of abandoning them. They might tell you you're giving up too easily, that you're not willing to fight for the relationship. But fighting for a relationship doesn't mean tolerating treatment that diminishes you. It doesn't mean staying in unhealthy patterns out of guilt. Real fighting for a relationship looks like both people doing the hard inner work, both people showing up with honesty, both people committed to growth. If only one person is doing that work, it's not a relationship worth fighting for, it's a dynamic worth releasing. For others of you, this awareness isn't about ending things, it's about entering a new phase with clearer eyes. Maybe this person is genuinely working on themselves. Maybe they've acknowledged the jealousy, taken responsibility for it, started therapy or done serious reflection. Maybe what you needed wasn't to leave, but to understand what you're working with so you can navigate it consciously instead of reactively. And if that's you, here's what I want you to remember: growth isn't linear. There will be days when they backslide, when the old pattern shows up again, when they react with jealousy even though they're trying not to. That's normal. That's part of healing. What matters is the overall trajectory. Are they, over time, getting better at managing their triggers? Are they taking responsibility more often than they deflect? Are they genuinely curious about their patterns instead of defensive? If yes, then you're witnessing real growth. And that's something you can work with. But you still need to maintain your boundaries. You still need to be the guardian of your own integrity. Supporting someone's growth doesn't mean accepting backsliding as the new normal. It means celebrating progress while being clear about what's still not okay. And then there are those of you who are watching this and realizing you're the one with the jealousy. You clicked on this video because the title described your experience, and now you're sitting with the discomfort of being seen. Maybe you didn't realize how much control you were trying to exert. Maybe you thought your jealousy was justified, that it was just part of caring deeply. Maybe you've been telling yourself that if they really loved you, they'd understand why it bothers you when they're affectionate with others. If that's you, this is your invitation to do something different. This is your moment to stop managing your fear by managing other people and start addressing what's underneath the fear. You deserve to experience love that doesn't require you to control every variable. You deserve to trust that you're enough, that your person isn't going to disappear every time they connect with someone else. But you can't receive that kind of love, you can't even recognize it when it's right in front of you, until you heal the wound that tells you otherwise. Get support. Talk to a therapist who understands attachment. Do the reading, the reflection, the brutal honesty with yourself about where this pattern came from and why you've been letting it run your relationships. It's hard work. It's uncomfortable work. But it's the work that will free you, not just for the person you're with now, but for every connection you have for the rest of your life. Here's what I know to be true: the possessiveness they're hiding, or the possessiveness you're hiding, doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning of a different one. A story where wounds get addressed instead of projected. Where people take responsibility for their healing. Where love expands life instead of constricting it. But that story requires honesty. It requires courage. It requires willingness to see the truth even when the truth is uncomfortable. You have that courage. You're here, watching this, sitting with hard revelations instead of running from them. That alone tells me something about your readiness. So take what you've learned here and let it inform your next steps. Whether those steps are toward deeper connection with someone who's doing the work, or away from someone who's asking you to stay small, or inward toward your own healing, let them be conscious steps. Let them be chosen steps. Let them be steps that honor the fullness of who you are and who you're becoming. You're not trapped. You're not stuck. You're not obligated to stay in dynamics that hurt you or to keep performing roles that exhaust you. You have agency. You have choice. And the clarity you've gained here is meant to activate that choice, not paralyze you with it. Move forward with wisdom. Move forward with compassion, for them, yes, but also for yourself. Move forward knowing that you deserve love that feels like freedom, not surveillance. Love that celebrates your capacity for connection instead of trying to limit it. Love that trusts you, believes you, honors you. That love exists. And whether you find it with this person after they do their work, or with someone else who's already done theirs, or with yourself as you step into a season of intentional solitude, it's coming. You're moving toward it with every truthful step you take. If this video met you where you are, if it gave you what you needed, I'm grateful to have been part of your journey. The super thanks button is there if this work touched you and you want to support more videos like this. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Leave me a word or a phrase in the comments that captures what you're feeling right now. Whatever comes up, let it out. This community is here for you. You're seen. You're known. And you're moving in the right direction.